back again, and I'm here to talk about the new moon that's going to be happening in Cancer on July 14th, 2026 at 2:44 a.m. Pacific time, because that is where I am. I am in the Pacific Northwest, and so if you are somewhere else, you can adjust the time to your own time. Um, so yeah, the new moon in Cancer that's coming is going to be a little bit different with regards to um, the way that Cancer is normally addressed and perceived as purely nurturing, loving. It's all about family and home. And this time we have a interesting um, things that are going alongside, aspects that are going alongside this Cancer new moon. It is probably going to be a little bit more reflective, introspective. We're going to be looking inside for your own answers to love and nurturing, even though this archetype is a lot about family, the clan, roots, your tribe. And we'll get into that in a little bit, man. So, and I just wanted to say really quickly that I want to appreciate and thank everybody that has been watching my videos. It means so much to me because I didn't even think that I was going to be able to be doing this. And here I am making videos every couple weeks. And I really, really appreciate those of you who are coming by to check it out. Thank you so much. And if you feel inspired to like or share or follow me because um, you like the videos that I'm making or can see the potential. I appreciate you sticking around and hanging out with me. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say that quickly. So now I want to share the chart. Let's see. This should be it. Yes. New moon in Cancer. Okay, new moon in Cancer. All right. And we have the new moon down here at says 21 degrees and 59 seconds. It's almost 22 degrees, so we'll call it 22 degrees really. And but down here, this is where the new moon is happening. And we've also got Mercury retrograde right in here. So Mercury retrograde, which is bringing up a bunch of emotions related to the past. And what is that past? It's usually your childhood. A lot of childhood themes are coming up for this new moon. The Cancer archetype is really about family, clan, the tribe, wherever you feel like you belong and where you feel like you can be safe to grow and evolve. Um, the Cancer archetype is about nurturing something to and through to its maturity and being committed to that. And so we can see that this is why the family archetype comes up. The family deal is about commitment, really. And if you're not in a traditional kind of family, it's still about commitment when you love each other and show up for each other. And that's what this archetype and this new moon is really about. Um, it is making a square to these asteroids, Eris, Vesta, and Pallas. And so I'll circle them back in. There we go. Eris, Vesta, and Pallas. And these are very, very, very different energies here all together, but they are all feminine. And that is huge since the new moon in Cancer is very feminine, very, very feminine archetype happening here. Um, the other thing about the Cancer archetype is it's about passing down your family culture from generation to generation. And I believe that this is one of the reasons why we have this square to these asteroids, is because I think each one of them describes a different kind of family tradition or family culture that gets passed down. We have in Eris the culture of victimhood and not fitting in anywhere. And some of that gets passed down when a family doesn't feel like they belong where they are geographically. And, we can see a lot of that going on because people have immigrated to different countries and there is a lot of unrest going on with regards to where do I fit in? Where does my family fit in? Uh, we're all, you know, a lot of us are going through that, but then there are some of us that have been given this through our family culture. So that's one of them. Another family culture in Vesta is the totally loyal, um, you haven't ever left your childhood hometown. Uh, Generations have never left this hometown, and it is very, very much about this is exactly where you think you belong because your family has been here for generations, and you have a sense of loyalty and the the need to continue that loyalty. And this third one in Palace is the energy of fighting, protecting. Um, I would say that this is a military background, probably. And Vesta, I feel like is like more like a background in religion. That could be one of the reasons why someone hasn't ever left their hometown for generation after generation is because there is a church, a group of people, in religion that you are tied to through loyalty. And again, with Palace, I believe it's military. And with military, yes, they move around, but at the same time, the loyalty and all of that belongs to where they're from, where they come from. And so uh, it's another way of being with regards to family, clan, tribe. And so all of these different energies, they all come together to describe how we all have different feelings when it comes to home, family, and our roots. There are different reasons why we do what we do, um, because of our childhood background. And so, yeah, um, moving along. One of the other things about the Cancer archetype that is worth mentioning is creating a safe space for yourself and others. This is one of the most important themes that's coming up, I believe, with regards to also having Mercury retrograde there, is because I think that Mercury retrograde is helping us look inside of ourselves and question, is this safe? Am I safe here? Am I safe to express who I am feeling like I really am? Is it safe for my children? Is it safe for my family? We've been asking ourselves these questions all the whole time that Jupiter had been going through Cancer and in aspect to Chiron. And now Chiron and Jupiter have moved on to the next level of their um, aspecting to the fixed signs of Taurus and Leo. We'll talk about that later also. But in Cancer, now we're left with some very big questions about safety and where we are. And this new moon, I believe, is really a call to learn how to create that new safe space. And I'm not talking about a fake safe space. If you know, you know. I'm not talking about fake safe spaces. I'm talking about genuinely feeling safe. And that's not always um like you can't ever be safe from natural disasters. And that's not what I'm talking about either. I'm talking about um, political ideology first and foremost. Uh, so we're investigating, looking within, searching on the inside of us through our memories, childhood memories, to see if we can remember what safety feels like and what it even looks like. And can we even get there from here? That is where Eris up here, the first asteroid that I was talking about, comes into play because we are all feeling a little bit displaced. It doesn't matter if you have been in the same place that you've been for generation after generation. You're feeling a sense of displacement inside of yourself because that's just what's meant to be happening right now. You're meant to be questioning where you are, like where you call home and why you call it home, and just how does this play out? And this is very individual for each person. I can only talk in general terms because I'm looking at a general chart. If you would like a reading to know what this is more about for you individually, then please, please contact me. I would love to help you with that. Um, And the other thing that Cancer archetype is about is initiating activities that will serve the family and community. And we all know like who these people are. They're usually very Cancerian, and they have all kinds of ideas as to how to get the family closer to each other and how to get the community to interact with one another. And this is another huge theme that's coming up. You watch for it and watch for all the new ways that our wonderfully beautiful Cancerian hearted people are going to be coming up with ideas on how to get the human family to interact with one another again. Mm, this new moon really signals that there is a lot more than what it looks like just on surface level. Because yes, Cancer is all about comfort and compassion and your feelings and having empathy, but we are creating a whole new outlook on what family is. And by the time we get to what the new family actually looks like, it's not going to look like what it looks like today. And another thing that is helping with that is this mini trine here with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And they are at all at 4 degrees in this chart. So I can highlight that here. And this Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. All right, this mini trine. One of these days I'll learn how to draw on this. But yes, the mini trine in the sky. It is part of the basket aspect that other astrologers have been talking about more. And I will leave the basket aspect to those other astrologers because that is a whole can of worms that is more than I want to get into for this video because I already have a lot to unpack. Um, so yeah, we're already experiencing this major shift in what it's going to be like to just be, exist, who we are individually. It is all happening for us individually. And one of the um, one of the side effects of this major change is that what a family looks like is going to change also. We are looking at Pluto being in Aquarius now, and just to try to sum this up quickly, Pluto going through Capricorn was opposing Cancer. And so basically, both sides of the axis get affected by Pluto. When Pluto is in a sign, the other side, the other axis side is definitely being affected by it. And while Pluto was in Capricorn, the sign of Cancer was also being ripped apart, truly. So Pluto finished going through Capricorn and affecting Cancer also. And we're left with a bit of a void when it comes to both Cancer and Capricorn. Capricorn and Cancer. It's a void because Pluto disrupted all of that, destroyed it. Just, you know, the idea of what a family is these days is very, um, what is the word I'm looking for? Because it's so disjointed, disconnected. Um, the idea of family is almost as if we don't know how to describe what family is other than a very, very, very old way of describing what family is. And I believe that through all of the eons of generations of families, there's been many different changes and shifts in as to what a family is, people who relate to each other. So we're going through another phase that is signified by this very new moon in Cancer, that we're going to be reconfiguring what family means. And Mercury retrograde in Cancer during this new moon in Cancer is definitely speaking to that for me. Um, One of the things about the Cancer archetype is practicing self-care so that giving comes from a place of fullness and not depletion. Speaking of Pluto, I believe that that has been one of the things about Pluto having gone through Capricorn and affecting Cancer is that our giving muscles are fatigued. They're in fatigue because there was a lot of giving during that time. And to where you could say there was too much giving away of a lot of things. Let's clear my drawings. Okay. There's a lot of giving away, and we are now in a position to where we're starting to feel that our resources are finite. We are giving of a place from a place that feels like it's depleted. There's not enough. There's a lot of talk about how there's not enough to go around. And a lot of it has to do with people being displaced from homes. A lot of it has to do with war and the destruction of our resources. And this Cancer new moon is really asking us to look at these hard situations, of feeling like we don't have enough. Yes, we live on a planet with finite resources, but it is a beautiful gift that's been given to us, Earth, and all of the resources. And when humans have a better sense of connectivity with one another, we will use our resources more with more wisdom, with more efficiency, and not be so much waste. That's one of the things that I believe Pluto in Aquarius is really going to be highlighting. And when Pluto and Jupiter are officially in a opposition, here soon. We'll talk about that also. Pluto and Jupiter officially in their opposition just a few days from this full moon, I mean, new moon. There is going to be talk about our resources and how do we come back into balance and not be so wasteful. I think that Jupiter in Leo is going to really point out where we are have been wasteful for a long time, a long, long time. And what else about Cancer before I go into the other stuff? Um, one of the main things to keep in mind about the Cancer archetype is the question, um, the question, where is it safe to be a child? Where is it safe to connect with your inner child? And where is it safe to not know the answers to everything? This is where the job of the Cancer archetype is to help people discover answers through not knowing. It's safe to not know. It is okay to not know where to go next. It's okay to not know because it's part of learning, it's part of evolving and our growth. Um, when you think about childhood, there's a lot of mistakes that go into learning the things, and then we grow up and we know all kinds of things because of mistakes. And if it wasn't safe to make those mistakes in your household, that builds up to trauma and not evolving and growing properly. It's not learning properly. So really, one of the things to take in and consider and reflect on is where is it safe to be a child, like a child, and to not know, to just not know what the answer is. And so that we can use our imagination to explore, kind of like a child would, right? And then your inner child is still there. It's always there. I think that that's one of the things that this new moon is really asking you to tap into is your inner child. And if you find that it's not safe, it is very important to find it within yourself to find a safe space to access your inner child. That usually means, if you can't access your inner child, it usually means that you're under a tremendous amount of stress. So that's something to look into and to try to, um, you know, sometimes you can't get out from that stress and you just have to access your inner child anyways, because there are answers there that you wouldn't get otherwise. Yeah. Um, the job of this Cancer new moon really is to bring awareness to the new family archetype that is coming through to the future, uh, and to revise what family means. And, the asking yourself, is it safe, is going to lead you to whether or not you need more revising to your understanding of what family is, or you will see that you're well on your way to understanding a new definition of what family is. Uh, yeah. The darker shadow aspects to Cancer are um, like you only have a sense of self through giving. Um, Also, you're only connected to your family, your clan, or your tribe. That's not necessarily healthy to only be connected to your family. Um, the idea that you only give things to get back is very controlling, and that is a shadow aspect of the Cancer archetype. Um, And if you're drained by acts of giving, it means definitely that you're giving from a place of depletion and not fullness, and that you haven't been giving yourself enough self-care in order to be able to give back. If you, another dark shadow aspect is victimhood and lacking direction or purpose, because that can loom around not feeling like you belong anywhere. It will definitely lead into not feeling like you have any direction or purpose. Lastly, if you are unable to receive or unable to be vulnerable, this is a shadow aspect of Cancer. And to be like sure that you know all the answers, to be sure that you have everything that you need, and that you're going to be the one that always gives things. This is a very dark way to experience the Cancer archetype because it can be isolating. Uh, Eventually, it will be isolating to spiral down into, victimhood, to spiral down into um, the prison of not being able to be vulnerable. It's very isolating. And so the opposite of connection is really where the shadow of Cancer comes out. And you probably heard it talked about before, but the hard shell on Cancer, on on a crab, is really describing that um, the it's describing like the shadow aspect of being too hard, too hardened, not letting anybody in to your soft inside. And that is very much a Cancer thing. And so, as we're going through this new moon, try to notice where you're protecting yourself from pain that isn't necessarily threatening you. Um, that is just pointing to your trauma. That Mercury retrograde there is probably going to help you with looking at and bringing up these past traumas. So it's something to keep an eye out for. And yeah, the yes, new moon. Okay. I wanted to show this other chart here. Oh, sorry. This chart. with the fixed stars because I wanted to show that this new moon is coming in right in between Castor and Pollux. Castor and Pollux. There we go. And right there. So Castor and Pollux is at 20 and 23 degrees of Cancer because, yes, it is the twins of Gemini, but due to precession and the wobble of the Earth, Castor and Pollux, all of the entire constellation of Gemini is in Cancer. And so this is where it gets interesting, I think, talking about the fixed stars, because I believe it adds another layer to this story of belonging and roots, where we come from. Um, the story of Castor and Pollux is interesting because it goes back to mythology that is so old. The twin twin lore goes very, 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 very deep. It goes quite it goes past the Romans, past the Greeks, and it goes into the Egyptians and further back. This twin mythology is very prominent to explaining where we come from as people. And so I just think it's very interesting. So Castor and Pollux are the twins of Gemini. The mythology of Gemini is that Castor and Pollux were born as twins and they came out of a giant egg. And I think that's interesting considering that the moon on most occasions looks like an egg. Before it gets to its fullness, it looks like an egg. As it's waning, it looks like an egg. So that is very interesting. Um, Notes here. Okay, born from an egg, two different fathers. Castor is the mortal, and Pollux is the immortal. And Pollux is the one that is born from Zeus as a father, and Castor is one that is born of the king, Tyndareus. I'm not really sure how to say his name, but both were born to Queen Leda. And in fact, um, she actually had two eggs. So let me go back a little bit further. The reason why there are eggs in this story is because Zeus is involved, and Zeus turned himself into a swan in order to seduce Queen Leda. And so he turned himself into a swan and seduced her, and then she's also married to the king. And she actually had two eggs. So, and this is where in the story you can see that it's very, very ancient. It goes way back to probably before we were human, to before humans understood really where we came from. And we had all kinds of lore as to where we came from. And it's possible that the egg lore comes from um, how do I say this? Like the idea that humans didn't, we didn't actually come from here, and that we're the aliens, and that we were put here by something, say like an asteroid that, and that's kind of like an egg falling, dropping, cracking open, and creating us. And that is just a super summed up version of it. So the idea that Castor and Pollux came from an egg, one egg of two eggs, because in both of these eggs were twins. So in one egg was Castor and Pollux, and in the other egg were twin sisters, Helen, who would eventually become Helen of Troy, and Clytemnestra. I don't know how to say her name. And Helen is the immortal one, and Clytemnestra is the mortal. And they have a different story, but it does involve Castor and Pollux because Castor and Pollux are their protectors over their sisters, and they come to save them at a very young age from being uh, stolen. Um, they were like kidnapped when they were like children, and Castor and Pollux saves them. And again, later on in the story, to further the evolution of everything, uh, Helen of Troy is kidnapped, but Castor and Pollux are not there to rescue her this other time. So there is that. I just wanted to mention that briefly. But back to Castor and Pollux entirely. Castor is the mortal, like I said, and Castor is considered the light or the white twin, and Pollux is the immortal, and he is considered the dark twin, and he is like the shadow and is considered violent and cruel. The immortal Pollux is his lineage comes from Zeus. And so he is a boxer, a fighter, and associated with thieves and is a trickster. And Castor is a writer who actually uses more of his intellect. And he is also heralded as a horseman, which is like the civilized twin. So he is the civilized twin, Castor, and Pollux is the uncivilized, the wild man, the wild one, the wild twin. And the idea of both of them is that good storytelling mixes good and evil into the story, and it builds a bridge between these opposites. And that's what Castor and Pollux are really about, is building a bridge between what is perceived as the dark and the light, good and evil, good and bad, the light and the shadow, and unifying into a story. Um, these twins, they were very devoted to each other and did a lot of things together. Many stories about how they're devoted and they protect and um, that Zeus is almost always sort of intervening to make sure that Pollux doesn't die, which ends up in Castor dying in an event. There, there was an argument with, I believe it's their cousins, another set of twins, right? There are twins all over in these stories. When you look up Castor and Pollux, there are several sets of twins. And that's why I wanted to mention that basically all of this twin lore is about separation and then reunification. Separation and then reunification. So Castor and Pollux were out basically stealing women and cattle. That is what the story is saying, is that they were helping themselves to married women and cattle that belonged uh to Idas and Luncius. I'm not sure how to say that either. Um, Idas and Luncius. And Idas kills Castor because their Castor and Pollux are caught red-handed trying to steal cattle. And so Idas is able to kill Castor because Castor is mortal. Zeus intervenes so that Pollux can't be killed. And then Pollux kills Idas, and Luncius is also struck down. And so almost everybody dies. It's like quite Shakespearean, right? Now I know where Shakespeare got his ideas for all of these stories, right? Um, so Pollux is heartbroken that his brother dies, can't be brought back because he's not immortal. And so Pollux begs Zeus to, be killed also. And instead of killing uh, Pollux and Castor are both um, immortalized by being put into the heavens as the constellation of Gemini. And this is where we get the constellation of Gemini, is through this tragic ending. Um, we get most of the constellations in the sky through tragic endings, actually. Um, so yeah, that's very interesting to think about the story and lore of Castor and Pollux with regards to Cancer season, because this is something of what we're all going through also. There is, when inside of us is the Castor and Pollux, the light and the shadow, the light, the dark, the good, the bad, and it is our job inside of us to reunify this separation of good and evil so that it becomes a balanced state inside of us, which sounds kind of like really hard to do considering we lived in such a polarized culture right now. It is very polarized. And I believe this is why the story of Castor and Pollux is coming up right now. Because it's like we're quite polarized. And, that's ultimately why it's so tragic that Castor and Pollux one has to die and the other is immortal and the other has to stay. Um, think about this for a minute, is that the the good one, the light one, the intelligent one is the one that is mortal and is the one that gets killed while he's out stealing women and cattle. You know, does it seem like a fall from grace? Possibly. And this is possibly where, if you look at your own life individually, where did you fall from grace that you can pull back from a tragic ending? This is one of the things that I see in this chart, is where have you let the shadow or the trickster influence and maybe set you on a path that isn't as rewarding as possible? It's something very deep to think about. because it will, because the answer to this in your individual self will bring you closer to unifying with the rest of the human family. Yes, because one of the things I want to go back to with Cancer season and being in the sign of Cancer, the zodiac of Cancer, is, oh, let me get rid of my drawings. Okay, the sign of Cancer here, it has this glyph, and this isn't a very good representation of it here because it's sideways. But we have this glyph for Cancer, and some people try to describe it as it's like the claws of the crab. I don't see it. I don't see that. I see a separation of two that are going around each other. And when I look at the glyph of Cancer, I can't not see the yin and yang. That is such a huge, um, I see it. Let's see if I can get I have to stop sharing so I can get to a different picture, because I want to show my picture here. Here we go. This is the glyph for Cancer inside of the yin yang sign symbol. And there you go. And that's all I think it is, but it is also such a huge, huge thing to unpack. Um, we've got the dark and the light. Interesting, right? We've got a little bit of light in the dark and a little bit of dark in the light. And that is one of the things about the Cancer glyph and the sign and the symbolism that I think is truly interesting, considering that Castor and Pollux are next to this new moon. And yeah, what else was I gonna say about that? The yin and yang. Um, it is a symbol that indicates spiraling, right? And when you stir up water, basically it combines. There is no um, separating one water from another water. You can't really do that. It all combines together in the vessel that it's in. And that is just something it's an important concept to keep in mind during this new moon in Cancer because we're really looking at the reunification of the human family. And this symbol really brings it in for me that there's always a little bit of the light in the dark and the dark in the light. There's always going to be that. And um, it is a symbol that essentially shows the spinning on the axis. So it is the first water sign that we come to in the zodiac, and it indicates spinning and mixing, not necessarily separating, even though there is a little bit of separation. There has to be a little bit, otherwise you don't know that it's um otherwise it's not whole, not complete. It is the interesting thing to take home and consider after talking about um, Castor and Pollux is that basically when you're working with twin symbology, you're also looking at a polarity, um, uh, polarity unification. You know, it is like an acknowledgement that there are separations, but the whole goal for all of that is to reunify. And I truly believe this is something that's going to be coming through when we start really creating the new family. That there will be a lot less boundaries to the new family archetype. And that is just something I wanted to share quickly. I wonder, just stop sharing that. Okay. All right. So I am thinking about making another video that is going to be talking about Jupiter in Leo because that is a whole other thing to unpack. I was gonna put it in this video, but I'm like, it's gonna get way too long when I talk about all these things together. So keep an eye out. I will be talking about Jupiter and Leo also. So I hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of it. And I hope that you all enjoy your new moon in Cancer. I'll be talking to you soon. All right. Goodbye.